Dragon Age Origins is an action RPG developed by BioWare and released in 2009, which sets the player as one of few remaining Grey Wardens, a force capable of unifying and protecting the lands against the menace of evil creatures called Darkspawn. Thrust into this sudden responsibility, the player faces regular ethical and moral struggles alongside physical ones. But these responsibilities don't occupy the entire game, as there is still time to consider matters of gender and sexuality. Dragon Age Origins and most of the Dragon Age series is filled with matters of ethics delivered in the form of significant decisions to be made. Do you support the mages or the Templars? Are the elves or werewolves in the wrong? Perhaps the largest dilemma comes toward the end of the game. I'll skip that though. These are some of the major decisions made throughout the story, and each has underlying questions of morality, with no distinct right or wrong. Yet they aren't the only decisions to be made. Though there are many smaller details to be examined, I'll be focusing on one of these larger decisions, the elves. During the game, the player will seek out the Dalish, the forest elves, for assistance, but they face troubles of their own. Their camps are attacked by werewolves, their people cursed to die painfully or become the beasts themselves. The elder of the camp visited by the player requests help in curing the afflicted elves. I'm sure you've guessed it's not that simple though, or I wouldn't be talking about it. No. In hunting for a cure, the heart of the werewolf's progenitor, the player learns that these werewolves are not mere mindless beasts, though some are. Among their number are also intelligent creatures, capable of speaking, and if the player is willing to hear their story, things become far more complicated. There are many details that I'll have to glance over here, but the first werewolves were criminals, cursed by the Elven Elder, and if they dig deeply enough, the player will learn it's possible to convince the Elder Elf to release the curse and return the werewolves to their original forms. But this Elder is blinded by past wrongdoings, and seeks to punish them for the crimes of their ancestors. But is this a just punishment? Surely most people will recognize that these werewolves did nothing to earn their curse, and deserve release. But if they fail to convince the Elder who is stuck in his ways, the only options are to side with one side or another, bringing on bloodshed. Slaying the werewolves is one form of release from suffering, but what of the elves? I should note that only the Elder of the Elves is responsible for, or even aware of, the curse. So, why would anyone consider fighting the elves? Well, some people probably think an army of werewolves is cool, but the main reason, as I see it, is the progenitor of the curse, Witherfang, known to the werewolves as the Lady of the Forest. You'd expect the progenitor to be a werewolf, but, in truth, this is her, a spirit with a woman's body and extremely scantily clad. Given the chance, she'll debate with the player the wrongdoings of the elves, explaining that they had planned to spread the curse to the elves and force the Elder to release the curse, but his stubbornness will refuse them that release even beyond death if the player fails to convince him to show mercy. I believe this lady, with her physical allures and careful wording, is the primary reason for players to ally themselves with the werewolves. This is one of the places where Dragon Age plays upon themes of gender and sexuality. It's not a method they often use to influence the player's decisions, but it is a topic which is present throughout the game. I was less involved in matters of gender and sexuality, so I can't provide as much detail as I can in ethics, but there are some very clear points to be made on the topic. First, on gender, the player can choose to play a male or female character of whatever background, race, and class they choose. While those three traits may limit one another, gender has no bearing on them, and both male and female characters are equal in all mechanical matters, and in design too. Dragon Age is a little guilty of using hypersexualized female characters, such as Morrigan or the Desire Demons, but outside of specific characters, female characters wear reasonable armor and wield reasonable weapons. Turning to sexuality, Dragon Age makes a strong effort to be inclusive. Among the player's companions, the romance options are limited, with only 4 companions to romance, but it's a decent spread. 1 straight male, 1 straight female, 1 bisexual male, and 1 bisexual female are present in the player's party, and while some may claim this isn't sufficient, as homosexual characters aren't depicted, I feel they've achieved a fair result with a limited number of characters. But matters of sexuality don't end at romancing party members. There's actually a brothel the player can visit, where they are able to hire a bedmate. Gender applies no limit to the options here, as the player can bed men and women regardless of their own gender. Hiring such persons will have a cost, but there are actually no effects from doing so other than lightening the player's purse. A brief, mildly suggestive scene plays, and the game continues as normal, with no further consequences. In this way, sexuality is something which exists within the game, available for the player's interests, but is treated as a minor matter, something that is only a temporary distraction from the hero's duty. Needless to say, companion romances are more significant than this. So, I've covered how Dragon Age Origins steps into the bounds of both ethics and gender and sexuality. I believe anybody who considers these topics will find their presence obvious, and far more detailed than I have explained, with ethics woven into the basis of the game's world, and I'd find it harder to pick out a decision without underlying moral and ethical questions than with. And there's a clear, strong attempt on part of the developers to represent genders and sexualities equally.